The camera behind the clock, she blinked, not believing what she was seeing. The new clock hadn't been there before. It sat on her bedside table, now slick, matte grey, ticking softly. But it was too perfect, too out of place. Maya backed away. Hands shook as she picked it up. The back looked solid. No seams, no screws, nothing obvious. But when she tilted it to the side, she saw a dot, another pinhole dot, another lens. It wasn't over. Terror crashed over her like a wave. This person hadn't just watched her, he had returned. He had replaced the old camera with a new one. Even after the police were involved, he was mocking her. Maya felt sick. She stumbled to her phone and called Officer Hart again. "This changes everything," Hart said after seeing the second device. "It means he's still active. He came back knowing we were involved. He's bold, or he knows how to avoid being caught." Maya couldn't stop trembling. "How is that even possible? I wasn't even here." "You weren't," Hart agreed, "but someone has access. Someone who knows your patterns, your movements." For the first time, Maya realized this was planned. It wasn't random. She was being targeted. She checked all her belongings, shelves, even behind light fixtures. She found nothing else. But she couldn't trust anything anymore. Her privacy had been invaded down to her skin. That night, she went back to her brother's house and cried in the shower for almost an hour. She felt violated, not just physically, but emotionally, like her safety had been peeled off layer by layer, and she was standing raw in the world. Raj stayed up, sitting outside the bathroom, just in case she needed him. "You're not alone," he reminded her gently. "We'll figure this out." But Maya knew it wasn't that simple. 3 days later, she returned to the building with Officer Hart and another officer. They knocked on the door of apartment 3B, the man she'd told them about. No answer. They knocked again, louder. Finally, the door opened. It wasn't the same man she remembered. A middle-aged woman stood there instead, looking confused. "Yes, apologies, ma'am," Hart said. "We're looking for the previous tenant, a mantle, slim, dark hair. Lived here until recently." The woman nodded. "Yes, he left last week. Didn't say much. Just disappeared overnight. Never even collected his deposit from the landlord." Maya stepped forward, shocked. "Do you remember his name?" The woman shook her head. "He introduced himself once, said it was Daniel. I don't think that was his real name." The police asked if they could look inside the apartment. She agreed. They searched everything. No cameras, no clues, no personal items left behind, except one. On the top shelf of a kitchen cabinet, almost missed, was a folded piece of paper. Officer Hart pulled it down with gloves. She unfolded it slowly, cautiously, written in block letters. With a black marker, he looked right into the lens. Maya gasped, stumbling back. The message was meant for her. He knew she'd find the first camera. He knew she'd check the footage. He wanted her to that night. Maya couldn't sleep again. Every sound felt like footsteps. Every shadow felt like eyes. But now it wasn't just fear. It was anger. This man had played with her safety, her privacy. He had turned her life into his personal game. And the worst part, he was still out there. Officer Hart promised they were putting out an alert, checking surveillance, checking nearby rentals. But Maya had seen this kind of thing before. That went cold. Evidence that wasn't enough. She didn't want to wait. She started doing research on her own. Forums, online communities, threads about hidden surveillance devices. She even connected with a woman from Ohio who had gone through something eerily similar. He had used the same type of wall clock, the same type of angle, the same game. In her case, too, the man had disappeared just before police involvement. Maya shared the details with Officer Hart. "Maybe we're dealing with a serial voyeur," the detective said grimly. "Someone methodical, smart, travels from city to city, changes identity." "But why me?" Maya whispered. "Why my apartment?" Hart didn't answer, because sometimes monsters didn't need a reason. Maya changed her phone, installed security, cameras of her own, and started sleeping at a friend's place instead of Rogers. She didn't want to bring danger to her family. But then, on a Sunday morning, a new development shocked her even more. An envelope, no return address, no stamp, just slid under the door of her friend's apartment. Inside, it was a single flash drive. Maya stared at it for a long time. Then she called Raj and Officer Hart. They all met at the station to open it. The drive contained only one file. It was a video. The camera angle wasn't from the clock this time. It was from above. like a ceiling corner, like a camera placed in her bathroom. The footage showed Maya brushing her hair, singing softly, completely unaware. Hart stopped the footage immediately. "This man didn't just watch from one room," she said, voice hard. "He had access to more than we thought." Maya couldn't speak. Her throat felt locked shut. "I'm going to find him," Hart promised. "This man has gone too far." But Maya had already decided something for herself. She wasn't just going to wait for justice, she was going to get ahead of him. The voice on the tape, the flash drive, had changed everything. What Maya once thought was a violation of privacy now felt like a full-blown hunt, and she was the prey. The video from the bathroom haunted her, looping in her mind every time she closed her eyes. It wasn't just about being watched anymore. It was about control, power, and fear. Whoever this man was, he wanted her to know she was never alone. Back at her friend Zoe's apartment, Maya sat on the couch, wrapped in a thick blanket she didn't need. Her skin felt cold from the inside. "I can't keep hiding," she said softly. Zoe looked up from the kitchen. "You don't have to rush anything, Maya. Let the police handle it." Maya shook her head. "I'm not just going to wait around for another envelope, another video, another nightmare." She opened her laptop and started her plan. The next day, she returned to her own apartment during daylight hours. For the first time since discovering the second camera, she had already bought several pieces of tech: an RF detector to sweep for hidden signals, a UV flashlight to detect fingerprints and unusual stains, and a small GoPro she clipped onto her shoulder for recording the entire search. She started in the kitchen, then the bathroom, the bedroom, the closet. She scanned behind the mirror, under the bed, even inside the vent. She found nothing, but the RF detector pinged faintly when she pointed it near her bookshelf. Carefully, she removed one book at a time, and then she saw it taped to the back wall, behind an old dictionary she hadn't touched in months. Another tiny camera. This time it was connected to a thin battery pack. She carefully removed it, sealed it in a bag, and labeled it with the date and time. Then she checked again, just in case. Still nothing else. But this time she wasn't scared. She was angry. At the police station, Officer Hart looked concerned. "That's 3 devices now," she said. "This guy isn't just stalking you. He's methodical. He planted these in specific places that cover you from all angles." "I want to do something," Maya said firmly. "I don't want to keep reacting. I want to get ahead of him." Hart raised an eyebrow. "What are you thinking?" "I want to bait him." "You want to what?" "I want to pretend like I've moved on. Act like I'm back to normal. Maybe even leave the apartment for a few hours here and there. Make it seem like I'm not watching." Hart leaned back in her chair, quiet. "Finally," she said. "It's risky, I know," Maya replied. "But if he thinks I'm done looking, maybe he'll come back, and this time, we'll be ready." Hart looked at Maya with new respect. "All right, we'll bug the apartment with our own surveillance, audio and visual. If he comes back, we'll have him." That night, Maya returned home and tried to act normal. She played music, she cooked pasta, she called her mom on speaker, she even laughed out loud at old videos on her phone. But her heart beat fast the whole time. She had left all the lights on. She made sure the curtains were slightly open, just enough to make someone believe she wasn't worried anymore. But she was watching. The entire apartment was now filled with silent watchers, not his cameras, but hers and the police's. She had 4 motion detectors, 2 pressure sensors, and live feeds on her phone that connected to the station. Hours passed. Nothing. Then, at 3:08 a.m., while Maya was pretending to sleep, her phone vibrated once. A silent alert. Motion detected. Living room. Maya didn't move. She kept her breathing even, just like the officers had coached her. Another vibration. Pressure sensor triggered. Bedroom floor. He was inside. Through the live feed, Hart and her team watched the man enter through the balcony door. He wore all black, his face covered by a thin ski mask. He moved directly to the bookshelf, the same place Maya had found the 3rd camera. But this time, he didn't find what he was looking for. Maya's heart thundered in her ears as he moved silently toward her bed. He stood over her again, just like in the original footage. But this time, cameras recorded everything. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, a flash drive. Then he did something strange. He bent over and whispered something to her, thinking she was asleep. His voice was low, calm, almost caring. "You were always the clever one. And then, he was gone. The police didn't stop him that night. They didn't want to scare him off too soon. Instead, they followed him. But by the time they reached the street, he had vanished again like smoke. Hart was furious. Maya was shaking, but she still had the flash drive, and this one wasn't like the others. When opened at the station, the drive contained no video, just one single audio file. It was distorted at first, but as it played, it grew clearer. It was a voice message, a man's voice, not masked, not disguised. Do you remember the motel on Route 9, room 24? That's where it all began. I never forgot. I wonder if you did. Maya's skin turned cold because she did remember, but that was something she hadn't told anyone, not even the police. She had been there once, years ago, for one night. She had no idea anyone else knew. The motel memory. Maya sat in the police station, staring at the speakers as the man's voice repeated for the 5th time. Do you remember? The motel on Route 9, room 24. That's where it all began. I never forgot. I wonder if you did. Officer Hart paused the audio. You recognize the voice? She asked. Maya hesitated, her throat tight. No, but I know what he's talking about. Hart sat forward. Tell me everything. Maya had never spoken about it. Not to anyone. Not even Raj. It happened nearly 4 years ago. She had just moved to the city, broke and trying to escape a toxic relationship. One night, her boss at the diner offered to cover her shift early. She packed a small bag, needing quiet and distance. She drove out of the city and stopped at a cheap roadside motel. 9 Motel. She asked for a room, and the man at the front desk gave her room 24. That night, she barely slept. The motel was old, creaky, and smelled like cigarette smoke, but she needed the silence. At around 2 a.m., she heard something, a soft knock on the door. She didn't answer. Another knock, firmer still. She said nothing. Then came footsteps, faint, ones like someone walking just outside her window. She stayed frozen in bed until sunrise. When she left in the morning, there was no one around. She checked out quickly and never spoke of it again. It seemed harmless at the time, just a strange night. But now, hearing the voice on the flash drive, it felt connected. Like that night wasn't random, like someone had been watching even then. I think that was the first time he saw me. Maya whispered. Hart nodded slowly. It's possible. Maybe he worked there, or maybe he was staying in the next room. But how did he recognize me after all these years? Maya asked. I've changed. He couldn't have known I'd move here. Hart's eyes darkened. Stalkers don't always forget. Some of them wait, years even, until they find the right time. The thought made Maya feel sick. Did you ever file a report back then? Hart asked. Maya shook her head. No, thought I was just being paranoid. Hart leaned back, tapping her pen on the desk. We need to look into that motel. Get the guest logs, employee records, surveillance if any still exists. She sent a request to the local police near Route 9 while Maya sat in silence. She felt like her past was unraveling in front of her. Later that evening, back at Zoe's apartment, Maya sat curled up on the couch. Raj came over after work and handed her a tea. How are you holding up? She gave a weak smile. I'm exhausted, but I'm not giving up. You're braver than anyone I know, he said gently. Maya sipped the tea and glanced at her phone. .1, new message. It was a photo, no number, no caption, just a picture. She stared at it, frozen. It was a picture of her taken through a window. From outside Zoe's apartment, she was sitting at the dining table, back turned, talking to Raj. The timestamp was just 1 hour ago. He was still watching her. The next day, Officer Hart called with an update. You're not going to believe this, she said. We traced employment records from the motel. One staff member stood out. His name was Liam Carter. He worked part-time at Route 9 for about 8 months. Quiet guy. No criminal record. No family listed. He left suddenly without notice for days after Maya had stayed there. Hart continued. The motel manager described him as overly polite, private. He sometimes took rooms even when he wasn't working. Paid in cash. No trail. They pulled an old employee photo. Maya stared at it. The face was partially turned. The image was blurry. But the eyes, she gasped. That's him. Hart nodded. We're digging further. If he's used aliases, we'll find them. But he's careful. Too careful. Then maybe we stop being careful too, Maya said. Hart frowned. What do you mean? I mean, I'm tired of being hunted. What if I flip it? What if we lure him in again? Hart hesitated. You want to be bait again. This time I choose the place. I control the space, not him. 2 days later, Maya checked into a private short-term rental across town. A cozy one-bedroom apartment with big windows and a quiet balcony. She didn't tell anyone the location except Officer Hart and 2 undercover officers assigned to nearby surveillance. She placed a fake journal on the table, left notes and schedules out in the open, suggesting she'd be away at a yoga class. Every night at 7 p.m. the apartment had been wired with police cameras and audio far better than before, and Maya waited. The first night, nothing. The second night, still nothing. But on the third night at 7:48 p.m., the door clicked. Someone had used a duplicate key. Through the earpiece in Maya's ear, she heard Hart's whisper, "Stay still, he's inside." Footsteps moved across the living room. A shadow passed by the curtain. Maya remained perfectly still in the bathroom, crouched in the dark behind the door. Then she heard it. A voice, soft, almost kind. "You always liked to run," he said, speaking into the empty room. "But this time, I followed the breadcrumbs." Maya clutched the tiny panic remote in her hand. The man walked toward the hallway 3 steps from the bathroom. 2. Hart's voice came through again. Now Maya hit the button. The hallway lights exploded on 2 undercover officers burst through the front door. The man turned. For a second, he looked calm, resigned, even. Then he ran straight for the balcony. He jumped. The escape and the truth. He jumped. For a terrifying second, no one moved. Maya rushed from the bathroom just in time to see the man's black hoodie vanish over the balcony rail. Officer Hart's voice shouted over the earpiece. "He's on the run south alley side." The 2 officers bolted through the front door, racing down the building stairs, but Maya stood frozen, staring out the window. 3 floors down, the man had landed in a flower bed and rolled, limping into the dark alley behind the apartment. By the time the officers reached the ground, he was gone. Again. Another narrow escape, another empty space where answers should have been. Later that night, the apartment was sealed off. Forensics came in. The man had worn gloves again. No prints, no evidence left behind. But one thing gave them a break. A tiny thread, literally, on the balcony. Stuck to a splintered piece of railing was a torn piece of dark fabric. From the hoodie, it had a faint label, M. Rook. Officer Hart checked it. "That's a rare local brand. Only sold in 1 store downtown." Maya leaned in. "You think he bought it there?" "We'll find out." The next morning, the store manager confirmed it. A man matching the suspect's build had come in 2 weeks earlier, bought the hoodie in cash. No name, no receipt taken. But the store had CCTV. The footage wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough. And this time he wasn't wearing a mask. He had light stubble, sharp eyes, and a quiet calmness, like he didn't care if anyone remembered him. When Maya saw the footage, she felt like the air had been knocked out of her chest. "That's him," she whispered. "That's the man from 3B. Officer Hart froze. "You're sure?" "Yes, the one who used to live across from me. The one who disappeared right after I found the first camera." Hart nodded grimly. "Then we have our face. Now we find his name." Back at the precinct, the investigation team started combing through databases, image recognition, hotel registries, rental applications, old IDs. Then something hit. A partial match. Liam Carter wasn't his only alias. He had also used the name Noah Reeves once, 3 years ago, when applying for a warehouse job in another city. The picture from that job ID matched the store CCTV. Timeline fit. He moved around, always stayed just long enough to observe someone, then disappeared. Officer Hart laid the papers out in front of Maya. "His real name is likely neither Liam nor Noah, but this gives us enough to issue a warrant and a national alert." Maya felt something shift inside her. Finally, he wasn't just a ghost. He had a face. He had a trail. 3 days later, police received a call from a rural motel 2 hours outside the city. A man matching the suspect's description had checked in under the name Mark R. He had paid in cash and kept to himself. But after seeing the news alert, the clerk recognized him and called it in. By the time police arrived, the room was empty. But they found something chilling. Dozens of photos spread across the bed, some old, some recent, most of them of Maya. Different places, different angles, some through windows, others at her workplace, a few even at the train station. The police also recovered a notebook. Every page was filled with dates, times, and observations. She reads alone. She talks to her brother twice a week. She leaves the light on in the bathroom. It wasn't love, it was obsession. Naya sat with Officer Hart, flipping through the notebook in silent horror. This isn't just stalking, Maya whispered. He studied me like a subject. Hart nodded. He may have mental illness, or deep fixation. Either way, it's dangerous. Why me? Maya's voice cracked. Why did he choose me? Hart hesitated. We may never fully know, but I have a theory. She placed a printed map on the table. This was the Route 9 motel from 4 years ago. You were assigned room 24. Employees and guest logs. That same night, in room 23, next door he checked in under the name N. Reeves. Maya stared at the map. He was already watching you. Maybe by chance, maybe not. But something about that night, it stuck in his mind. You became his focus. Maya's skin crawled. She had always blamed herself for being paranoid that night. Turns out, she was right, despite the growing evidence. The suspects, still known only by aliases, remained missing. Maya refused to go back to hiding. Instead, she attended a support group for victims of stalking. There, she met others who had lived through the same fear, the same violation. She began to speak, to share her story, to take back her voice. Her case made headlines. Hidden camera stalker still at large. Brave woman shares her story to help others. It wasn't about shame anymore. It was about survival. It was about turning fear into power. 2 weeks later, Maya received a message from Officer Hart. We found something. The text said, call me. On the call, Hart's voice was calm but serious. A man tried to cross the border last night. Canadian side. He had fake papers, but customs flagged him. He ran. They found a phone in the woods where he fled. What was on it? Maya asked. Photos. Some of you, some new, some of another woman. Maya's blood chilled. He's chosen someone else. Possibly, Hart replied. But this time, we're ready. Into the hunter's mind, the man was still out there. And now, someone else was in danger. Maya stared at the phone screen, reading Officer Hart's message again and again. Photos. Some of you, some of another woman. Even now, after everything, he hadn't stopped. He had moved on to someone else. Just like that bat. Just like she was a chapter he'd already written and closed. But Maya couldn't turn the page so easily. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat by the window of Zoe's apartment, listening to the sound of the wind moving through the city. Raj called to check on her. You okay? She hesitated. I think I need to do something more. You've already done so much. No, she said, her voice steady. I've reacted, I've waited, I've hidden, but now I want to understand. Raj was silent on the other end. You mean, like talk to him? I mean, I want to know what made him this way. What made him choose me? I want answers. If I'm ever going to feel free, I need to understand why. The next day, Maya met Officer Hart at the precinct. I want access to the notebook, she said calmly, the one found in the motel. I want to read it. Hart paused. Are you sure? It's dark stuff. You're not required to go through it, I know, but I want to. Hart agreed, with one condition. A psychologist would be in the room while Maya read it. If anything became overwhelming, she could stop at any time. Maya nodded. The notebook was thicker than she remembered. It was filled with careful, small writing, almost artistic in its neatness. The first few pages were just notes. She walks with headphones but turns her head at every horn, smiles more when she talks to older people, hesitates around men. He had studied her like a character in a novel, not with love, with obsession. Then came something more disturbing. Saw her in room 24. She left the curtain half open. I could see her silhouette. It was peaceful, real. I didn't knock to scare her. I just wanted to hear her voice, even her silence. Maya's fingers trembled. Then a page later, she looked directly into the lens today. For a moment, I thought she saw me. It felt like we finally met. He had built a fantasy in his mind, one where Maya was a willing part of his story. The final entry hit her hardest. I wonder if she ever knew. I wonder if she ever felt what I felt. Maybe not. But still, I followed her because she made me feel seen. That's more than anyone ever did. Maya closed the notebook. She felt cold, not just violated, but sad, because beneath the horror, there was something broken inside him, something deeply lost and twisted. That evening, Officer Hart gave Maya another update. We might have a location. She pulled up a satellite map on her laptop. A wildlife camera on the border trail picked up motion 2 nights ago. A figure matching his size, moving toward an old hunting cabin. The cabin had been abandoned for over a year. Police believed he might be hiding there. Hart looked at Maya. We're planning a raid. Tomorrow at dawn. Maya nodded. I want to be there. Hart looked alarmed. No, it's not safe. I won't go inside. I need to be close when it ends. After a long pause, Hart agreed. From a safe distance, at dawn, Maya stood near the edge of the forest with 2 officers beside her. They were dressed in tactical gear. She wore a bulletproof vest, her heart pounding. The team approached the cabin carefully. No movement, no sound. Then a sudden noise, a creak from the floorboards. The officers burst in, shouting commands. Seconds passed like hours. Then came the radio call. Subject located. He's down. Maya's heart dropped. Down. Hart's voice answered. He's alive. Calmed and resist later. She saw him handcuffed, face bruised slightly from the takedown, but eyes calm. Almost too calm. He looked at Maya across the field, and smiled. That smile chilled her more than anything else. It wasn't evil. It was personal, like he thought they were still playing a private game. Back at the precinct, Hart gave her the full report. They found multiple fake IDs, old footage, USBs, and notes about other women. But Maya had been the only one he had followed this long. She asked one final question. Will I ever have to see him again? Hart shook her head. He's facing federal charges. Stalking, trespassing, illegal surveillance, breaking and entering, and more. He'll be behind bars for a long time. Maya nodded, but deep down, she knew the healing wouldn't come from his punishment. It would have to come from inside her. That night, she returned to her own apartment. For the first time in weeks, she walked through the space slowly. Every room had been swept, scrubbed, made new. She took down the remaining cameras, not because she felt safe, but because she wanted to begin reclaiming her life. She sat on the bed, took a deep breath, and looked into the mirror. No fear, just her story. Her strength. 2 months had passed. The man whose real name was finally confirmed as Nathaniel Reeves was behind bars, awaiting trial. The media had picked up the story, calling him the lens stalker. Articles described how he carefully watched his victims, how Maya's courage led to his capture. But Maya never liked the headlines, because to her, it wasn't just about the man, it was about the silence that followed, the quiet aftermath. The rebuilding, the healing. Maya stood in front of a small audience inside a community center. She clutched a piece of paper in her hand but didn't need it. Her story lived inside her now. This isn't about fear, she said, her voice calm. This is about what happens after fear, when the cameras are gone and the world expects you to be okay again. She scanned the room. There were other women, men too, survivors of different kinds. Some had lost loved ones. Others had faced stalkers or lived through abuse. All of them carried something invisible. But healing isn't about pretending nothing happened, Maya continued. It's about choosing to exist fully again, choosing to not let someone else write your story. Applause rose quietly, not loud, not dramatic, but real. After the talk, one woman approached her. I saw your face on the news, she said. I was followed by someone 5 years ago. I never told anyone. I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maya placed a gentle hand on hers. You weren't, and it's not too late to speak. That was the thing Maya had learned most. Fear wants silence. But healing begins with words. Back home, her apartment finally felt like hers again. No cameras, no shadows, just light. She painted the walls soft lavender, replaced all the furniture. New curtains, a small indoor plant corner. Her space wasn't just clean, it was transformed. Rog helped her hang a framed quote above the door. It read, "You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become." Every time she left the house, she read those words, and believed them a little more. Officer Hart visited one day with news. Nathaniel's hearing is in 2 weeks. You'll be asked to give a statement. You don't have to, but I want to, Maya said without hesitation. Hart smiled. Then we'll stand with you. The courthouse was cold, with long marble floors and serious faces. When Maya stood in front of the judge, she held her head high. Her victim impact statement was short but powerful. I was watched, recorded, and followed, but I survived, and I speak today not out of fear, but out of strength. I want him to know that no matter what he didn't break me. I am still here." Nathaniel sat at the defense table, eyes lowered. He didn't speak, and for once, Maya didn't care what he thought. This wasn't his story anymore. It was hers later. The judge ruled that Nathaniel would face a full trial with multiple charges. The court denied bail. His history, aliases, and repeated stalking attempts painted a chilling picture. He'd be gone for a long time, but Maya knew that true freedom wasn't in his punishment. It was in how she chose to live now. A few weeks later, Maya did something she once thought she'd never do. She took a solo trip, just her camera and a journal. She drove to a quiet mountain town, booked a small cabin, and spent her mornings walking trails and sipping coffee by a lake. She took pictures not of herself, but of the sky, trees, birds in flight. She wrote poetry again. She laughed with strangers. One night, she sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the stars. She whispered to herself, "I'm not afraid anymore," and she meant it. When she returned home, she started a blog, Eyes Forward. She shared her story piece by piece, not just the horror, but the healing. She wrote about therapy, about learning to trust again, about the day she threw away the last security camera. Thousands of people began following. Many shared their own stories, finding courage in hers. One message stood out: "I found a hidden camera too. I thought no one would believe me, but I read your blog and went to the police. Thank you for being brave first." Maya cried, reading that. Not from sadness, but from something deeper. Purpose. Months passed, seasons changed. Maya still had hard days, moments when a knock on the door made her flinch. When she double-checked the locks, healing was not a straight road, but she walked it, every day, with her head high. Final lesson. Sometimes, the scariest stories don't end with monsters in masks. Sometimes, they end with a woman who refuses to be silent. A woman who takes back her space, her voice, her future. A woman who is no longer a victim, but a survivor, a storyteller, a light for others, still walking through the dark. The end.